episode 66. If you can't control your emotions, you can't control your money.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And your host has a devious toothache. But who the hell ever stopped for a toothache, right? It is Monday. I hope you've opened a lot of doors since Friday, or at least contemplated on how you're going to do that. Welcome to the 66th episode of the very best podcast in the world. Your number one resource for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Now, this year is drawing to a close, and boy, was that a fuck up. I think this was kind of like the biggest clusterfuck year in my entire being, and you're just standing there as an observer, kind of powerless, contemplating, who you're going to beat up first for their insanity, while actually admitting to yourself that you have no fucking clue what's going on. So in that sense, welcome to the crowd, and trying to decide beside the very well communicating tinfoil hat community and those who we call elected officials, who have done such a piss poor job in really outlining the problem and bringing us to a solution. The road's been long. Everything about this whole thing is, kind of like a quagmire. The numbers and statistics have been subjected to significant fuckery. And when I started this podcast this year, I was anticipating to do a lot of interviews live here on the farm. Look where that went. Still, though, it was a fun ride this year in many, many, many different contexts. And so therefore, there's not really anything to complain. My life hasn't changed at all. It's changed in that I haven't been traveling to give speeches at conferences, which wasn't all too bad. I have to realize that I'm not 30 anymore. I'm over 40. So every time I get on a plane and on a long haul flight, I'm usually trashed for a couple of weeks, that kind of thing. And that being said, let's not whine about it. Let's see all the positive things that are going to result from this, because we've had a lot of air pollution, obviously, through the severe cut in air travel and travel in general. Technology's has seen great advancements with all the video conferencing, et cetera, et cetera. But I get carried away so fucking easy. Let's get back to the topic in that where we're going to discuss today. If you, the more you can control your emotions, the more you can control your money. And there's a very funny example that I want to start out with to really outline to you that it's not conventional market behavior only that can lead to bad decisions or better decisions if you listen to or ignore it. But we had this clique of entrepreneurs many moons ago, and one of them was an interesting character. He would always, get people wasted in bars and let them have make agreements with them to do business with them, and driving fast cars, doing a lot of drugs, and always impeccably dressed. always impeccable haircut, always clean shoes, always, the newest and fastest cars. No idea how he did it, but all of his contracts would eventually fall apart because when it was time to deliver, he just didn't have the correct resources to tap into to get the shit done. That being said, it's this dude had, among many other things, he tried to save his company by gambling, and he was a good gambler, hands down. This dude was fucking great. And I looked over his shoulder when, on another nightly session, he was sitting in front of his laptop and these clicking sounds were happening from an online casino. And I looked over his shoulder and he had north of 150,000 euros in his account, which was in online, and that was real money. I checked the table, it wasn't any play money that he was playing with, but it was real money that he had accumulated probably by starting out with a fraction of what that actually was. Now, wouldn't have been me if I said, dude, get out now, take the cash, settle all your accounts and, then start fresh. And he was like, no, I can easily get this to 1 million. I'm so good. And, I can, you can see I made this from a fraction. And yet, the whole gambling addict Bible up and down, and no, he doesn't have a problem and whatnot. Now, long story short, I think 2 days later, we saw the dude again, and he was fucking broke. He was back down to zero. Somebody had screwed him over, and his problems had just gotten worse. Now, let's draw a line under that and just say, wow, his fucking ego got in the way. And that's actually one of the emotions that if you want to be successful in the markets, or you want to be successful at gambling, you want to be successful at pretty much anything money related, you want to keep your fucking emotions under control, right? And that was a lesson I had to learn. I got screwed over by a client in a Far East country. And it was just an interesting experience because I'd never been through it. Like, go into business, you think that every businessman that you deal with is honorable. But no, that's not the case. But you have to learn it. And, I was pretty much blind, and my emotions were that let's get the contract done, to show off. And then the money didn't come. And then I was pretty much blue-eyed. And that was an emotion that got into my way, where I didn't hire attorneys to get the money, and I didn't file a suit because it would have been international. The costs would have been outrageous to me at that point in my life. And so I just let this debt go. And also that was kind of like my easy peasy emotion that kind of got in the way there. So how do we actually get control of our emotions? And, that's a very, very, very difficult thing for a lot of people to actually learn, including me. I think a lot of it comes with increasing maturity. It's go back to episode 62, some suppressing emotional triggers, where I go into that quite a lot of detail. And it's about really being aware of the current situation. If you are in an emotional state, it's about really detaching yourself. First of all, you have to be aware. Period. Hands down. That's the first thing you have to realize. You have to realize that you're emotional, and you have to try, once you are aware that you are emotional, you have to try to detach the emotional part from the equation and only focus on the facts. Now, in my example, this would have been, okay, I did the job. The contract says they have to pay me by. They didn't. Hire a solicitor. and then get that shit off and over with. For the gambling dude, it would have surely been, when he was sitting at the table with 150K. I was like, okay, distance yourself. You're not God. This is gambling. Luck plays a major role. You are lucky now. You've got enough money to settle all your accounts. You've got enough money then to start over, and then you can continue. And those would have been the correct reactions. But yeah, like I said, you have to learn for yourself. And I think the most important takeaway from this episode is actually the bottom line, which is becoming aware of the present moment. And with this present moment, becoming aware that the decision that you're about to make is influenced by emotion, and that's a very interesting thing to get to. The same applies for market psychology. If you buy stocks and shares, or stocks or shares, wherever you're from, it's like you want to let go of the emotional aspect. Are the news in context to the company you're about to invest to positive, or are they negative? Meaning, will the positive news have an increase, or will result in an increase in the stock price, or will the negative news impact the stock price negatively? And don't buy the, Apple is great marketing bullshit, or Coca-Cola is great marketing bullshit, or anyone else outlining to you in significant detail why you should be investing in Apple because they're such a good brand, and they're you get carried away by the impeccable marketing that they do, and that's wrong. If you're convinced of the brand, you're convincing, or you're being convinced of the brand, is not going to increase the stock price. It's just not going to happen, right? The only thing that's going to increase the stock price is if they've sold, a few million more iPhones into the market, or they have a breakthrough idea, or they released a new product that, is tentatively good, and let the others do the psychology, and you ride on the wave. That's the guarantee to financial success in that context. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up here. All points were made and pointed out. And yeah, since the year is coming to a close, I don't know who is listening and what their attention span is. The download numbers are humongous. But I've noticed that the attention span, especially obviously during the Christmas season or during the silly season, is, significantly reduced. So we're going to cut it here. I'm going to wish you a successful day if you haven't already. If you have a good night. As always, comments, criticism, feedback, and anything else goes to the very best podcast in the world at gmail.com. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform. It's pretty much everywhere. And I'm looking forward to hearing you again tomorrow, when we are going to talk about passion over paycheck. Peace out.